You're listening to the Unstoppable Teen Podcast, episode number 29. Welcome to Unstoppable Teen, the podcast for teenagers, parents, and teachers. My name is Kevin Mincher. Every week, we will bring you an inspirational person or message to help you experience more success and happiness. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's get this party started. Unstoppable Nation, it's Kevin here. Welcome to the show. In this episode, we're going to focus on what you can do to boost your motivation. Whether you're a teenager that's listening, a parent, or even a teacher, we're going to show you some simple things, hints, tips, easy to use strategies that you can use to light that fire inside, to get that motivation that's required to achieve pretty much anything. Now, if you've listened to us before, you will know that I created Unstoppable Teen way back in 1997 with the mission of helping 1 million young people experience a better quality of life. That means helping them get better grades in school, better sense of self-confidence, better relationship with family and friends, better health, better career prospects, a better life. Now, all of those wonderful things start with motivation. Or in other words, before you'll ever do anything, you have to want it. You can be surrounded, as many of us are, with the phenomenal wealth of resources. You can be sat next to a brilliant teacher, coach, or a mentor that could help you answer questions that you've got and find solutions to the problems that you're experiencing. Indeed, if you're listening to this right now, you've probably got access to the internet. And if you have access to the internet for free of charge, you can learn literally anything online today. The resources are out there for us all. So it's not a lack of resources that's an issue. It's a lack of motivation. You see, I've been working in school for a long time now, all over, not just this country, but helping young people around the world. And over the last few years, I've noticed a worrying trend. And it was really epitomised by a Facebook message that I received this week from Andrew, who wrote in to say, I've got a bit of a problem, Kev. I'm lacking motivation. I know I've got some tests and exams that are going to come up over the coming months, but I just can't find the motivation to do the work. He said, can you give me some help, some advice to get me back on track? So, Andrew, and for everybody else that's out there who wants some motivation, this episode is for you. Andrew is not alone when it comes to lacking motivation. It seems that there's hardly a week that goes by where a teenager doesn't stop me. Maybe at the end of one of my seminars in their school, they'll come up to the stage area at the front and they'll say, Kev, I'm really struggling. I'm aware that I've got stuff to do, but I just can't be bothered. And then another student will stop me, maybe in a corridor while I'm walking towards my car, and they'll say, you know what, Kev, there are times where I can get my motivation going, maybe for a week or two, but I just don't seem to be able to maintain it and sustain it over the longer term. Have you ever had a situation like that? Or do you know somebody else like that, where they have no motivation at all, or they have it in little short bursts, but they just don't seem to be able to sustain it over the longer term? Well, if that's you or you know somebody like that, this episode is for you. I'm really getting concerned about the lack of motivation and the general sense of apathy, of can't be bothered, it'll happen, somebody else will do it for me, kind of mindset that is becoming way too common in today's youth generation. Now, a lot of people will say, you know what, Kev, you're out of order. You're so naive. And they'll sort of say to me, Kev, as long as there have been teenagers on the planet, there have been lazy teenagers. Now, there might be some truth to that. But the fact is that nothing happens without motivation. Getting the grades that you want in school, the future career, improving your health, all of these things require you to find within yourself that inner drive, that inner desire, that sense of urgency that I've got to make things happen. Your mum or your dad can't go into that exam room and take the test for you. Your teacher or your coach can't go into your job interview and do it for you. Nobody else can pass your driving test for you or go on a date for you. These are all things you have to do for yourself, and you've got to have a sense of motivation if you're going to master the skills that are required to get the results that you want. Now, there are really only two forms of motivation. The first form of motivation is the desire to avoid some kind of pain, and the second form of motivation is the desire to gain some kind of pleasure. In the first instance, if you want to avoid pain, people are motivated to avoid things like failure. I don't want to be unemployed. I don't want to be poor and locked into poverty. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to get ill. I don't want to suffer from disease. They want to avoid pain. And on the other hand, the second motivational force is that desire to gain pleasure. I want the best grades I can possibly get. I want to get the best house that I can possibly get. Go on the nice holidays around the world. Have wonderful supportive family and friends. I want to get the rewards, some kind of pleasure. Pain and pleasure, the only two motivational forces. And the problem is that for many young people, there's no pain in their lives anymore, because in the developed world and in countries like mine, in Britain, life is relatively easy. It's all so comfortable. You only have to go back to my mum's generation when she would wake up in the morning and she described to me how her house was freezing cold and there would be ice on the insides of the windows. And there was pain and poverty, real poverty, that she wanted to avoid. She'll describe how she went to bed at night hungry because there wasn't any food in the house. There was no central heating system. She had to get out of bed in the morning and make a coal fire. And when you have that kind of pain in your life, you've got some motivation to study hard, to get some good grades so you can earn more money, to get out of that terrible situation you're in. But today, very few people in countries like Britain, the United States, Australia, Canada, Germany, France, and other developed countries, most young people don't experience that kind of pain that my mum had. So they're missing one form of motivation. There's no urgency, there's no enthusiasm, because there's no pain to avoid. So then you're hoping that young people will have the other type of motivation, which is some pleasure that they want to move towards. They've got goals and aspirations, hopes, things that they've got in their mind that they want to do to make life better. But the problem is that when you ask young people, what are your goals for the future? Many of them can't identify any. So on one hand, they have no pain to avoid. On the other hand, they've got no pleasure to move towards either. So you end up in this void, emotional void, a no man's land, a grey area of apathy, where people can't be bothered. I tell you what, you create some pain in their life and suddenly they become bothered. Or if you create, or they create for themselves, some inspirational goals, then suddenly they become bothered. You see, if you want some motivation, folks, you've got to start to learn and realise and identify the pain that could come as a result of not taking action. And you need to learn and understand the rewards that are out there by taking the right action. I want to help you get more motivation. And there's some questions, simple questions that you can ask yourself to light this fire within. Being comfortable is the death of motivation. Being comfortable with where you're at. And so many young people are so comfortable. There's no wonder they don't have any sense of urgency or motivation to make their lives better. Because they wake up in this wonderful, warm, central heated house or air-conditioned house. And they go to a refrigerator that's stacked full of food. And oftentimes it's prepared for them by their mum or dad or somebody else. And life is so comfortable. It's so easy. There's no wonder they don't have any motivation to do stuff. They then go and get into a heated or air-conditioned car and they get dropped off at school. And if it's not a car, then it's a bus or a nice bike that's got gears and it's easy and life's so comfortable. There's no wonder there's a lack of motivation. And then they go to a classroom. And in countries like mine here in Britain, over in the United States and other places around the world, they go to these beautiful, comfortable schools. They might not think it's beautiful, but then if you go to some really hard done to developing countries where literally kids will sit on the dirt. There's no fancy, comfortable desks and tables that have been ergonomically designed. There's no beautiful interactive whiteboards that have been connected to the internet with fancy projectors. It's literally one piece of paper, one book if you're lucky, and one old, out-of-date blackboard with some chalk. And a teacher that's one teacher trying to teach 50 or 60 kids that are all sat on the dirt floor. When was the last time a student in Britain, America, or Canada, or Australia, or Germany, or France experienced something like that? I can't remember. So they then go and have this comfortable day in school. And they go home, and life's all so comfortable. And we have these wonderful social systems that our governments have created, whereby, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we get rid of these things, but the downside of looking after lazy people by giving them benefits is that they have no motivation to go out there and work. So if I get to finish school and I don't have a job, I can just stay at home and watch TV and somebody will pay the rent for me. Somebody will put some free money into my bank account. And then life is so comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong, I've got family members who rely on benefits and welfare. I myself, in the past, received welfare benefits from the government when I was a teenager. I'm just trying to point out, provide for illustrative purposes, how life has gotten so comfortable for young people that they just don't have that urge of motivation anymore. Comfort is the death of motivation. And if you want more motivation, you have to create some discomfort for yourself. Or if you're a parent or teacher, you have to create some discomfort for your kids. That's counterintuitive. We don't want them to experience pain. But pain is a big motivator. Failure is a big motivator. Embarrassment is a big motivator. Loneliness is a big motivator. Ill health and disease, they're big motivators. And therefore, if young people don't experience the pain, then they miss the motivation, and we wonder, why is it they can't be bothered? There are a couple of simple questions that you can ask yourself if you want to unleash your motivation. Let's say you've got some important things to do in school. You've got some tests and some exams coming up, and you just can't quite motivate yourself to get off the sofa and do the studying, do the revision, read the books, take the notes, ask the questions, get the help, and prepare for the test and exam. Let's say you haven't got the motivation to get ready for the test and the exams that are coming up at the end of the year. So how do you get your motivation? Here's how you do it. You ask yourself two simple questions. What will it ultimately cost me if I fail? What do I ultimately stand to lose by messing up? What will the negative consequences be on my future career prospects, on my friends, on my family, on my self-esteem and self-worth, on my health? What do I ultimately stand to lose by messing up? And you can go forwards into the future. What will it cost me this year? What will it cost me next year? If I carried that failure forwards for 3 years, for 5 years, what would it ultimately cost me 10 years into the future? How will this cost me throughout the rest of my life if I don't plug into my motivation right now and get this work done? That starts to unleash and get that fire burning inside. That's the first set of questions, the avoiding pain questions. The second set of questions, you guessed it, are all about focusing on the pleasure. I've got these tests and exams coming up. What do I ultimately stand to gain by doing the work and getting the best grades possible? What impact would that have on my career prospects, on the amount of money that I could earn? What do I ultimately stand to gain? How will this benefit my confidence? How will this benefit my friendships, my friends, my family? And again, you slide forwards into the future. How is this going to help to contribute to improving the quality of my health? What's the impact going to be this year? How will it benefit me 2 years from now, 3 years from now? What do I ultimately stand to gain 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the rest of my life? You've got to ask questions that prod at the pain, that create the leverage and that release the pleasure. And then you start to take action. Then, when you ask the motivational questions, then that emotion stirs inside. And here's the thing, you don't ask the questions once. You ask them every day. As a teenager, you have to get that habit. When you're walking to school, catching the bus to school, getting the lift to school, and you're travelling to school, ask yourself, what is it going to cost me if I waste today? What do I ultimately stand to gain by giving it my best shot today? And when you're that parent that's driving that car and you're taking your child to school, ask them that question. What's it going to cost you if you waste today? What do you ultimately stand to gain by giving it your best today? And when you're that teacher at the start of your lesson and your kids and your students have come in and they've sat down, and before you start giving them the content, you ask them those questions. What's in it for you today? If you mess up, behave badly, don't focus, waste this opportunity to learn, what's it ultimately going to cost you? And on the other hand, by asking questions, getting engaged, by taking the notes, by doing your best, by helping your classmates, what do you ultimately stand to gain? When you ask these questions, motivation starts to flow. And unlike that coal fire that my mum had to make each day that would go out, if you keep asking the motivational questions of yourself and the people around you, it acts like a thermostat for a central heating system. That motivation doesn't dip. Or it might dip a little, but it'll never go out like the coal fire. If you ask the questions, that thermostat kicks in and it raises that temperature of motivation again, and you'll find the energy inside to just keep going. ZigZiglar was a motivational speaker from America who I used to listen to when I was a teenager. If you've never heard any of his stuff, I encourage you to do a search and get some of it. I know you can listen to it free via YouTube. I know that there's even a ZigZiglar podcast, even though he sadly passed away a few years ago. I believe he was once challenged by somebody saying that motivation doesn't work because it's temporary. He said, just like bathing, that's why we recommend that you do it daily. Motivation is a daily issue. You can't just have one motivational talk with yourself, with your child, or with your students at the beginning of the year and expect that to provide all of the motivation for the year. It's a daily thing. You have to ask yourself these motivational questions every day, or at least once a week. And if you're not going to ask yourself those questions that often, then you can't expect to be motivated. And if you're not going to motivate yourself, you can't expect to take the action. And if you don't take action, you can't expect to get positive results. There is a direct link between the motivation that you create for yourself and the results that you ultimately will get. So I encourage you to keep in the forefront of your mind why you're doing something. Isn't that really the question? Why do I want this? Why do I want it? Why do I want it? Why am I doing it? Why? And if you ask those motivational questions, you'll get that power, that strength, that inner energy to do whatever is necessary to get the results that you're more than capable of getting. So, Andrew, I hope you're listening, because I've just provided the answer as to where you find your motivation. Ask yourself those questions. If you'd like more help, more hints and more tips on this, I strongly recommend you go and get my new book, The Ultimate Youth Lifestyle. It's a really quick, short read for teenagers, but also for parents and teachers. If you want to experience more success and happiness, if you want to tap in to more of your inner motivation, go and grab a copy of that book. We'll make sure that I put a link in today's show notes. You'll be able to get those show notes at unstoppableteen.com/29. It's episode 29. So if you go to unstoppableteen.com/29, you'll be able to get that link. Of course, wherever you are in the world, the book is available. The Ultimate Youth Lifestyle. You can get that. It's available on Amazon all over the world. Go grab yourself a copy. The other thing that you can do if you want to get more motivation is invite me to come and speak in your school. Apparently, my No Limits seminar has become the most attended teen motivational seminar in Great Britain. I don't only deliver it in Great Britain, but hundreds of thousands of young people have gone through that seminar over the last 20 years. It's not exactly the same seminar every year. I hone it and fine-tune it and add some new stories, but the techniques that are in there are really about helping young people light that fire within themselves. It's about taking the common excuses away that young people have for not believing in themselves, not setting goals, and not pursuing their full potential. Ultimately, in the No Limit Seminar, I help young people set goals that inspire them so that we've got rid of that boredom and created something inspirational in their future that they feel a sense of urgency that they want to go and achieve. If you'd like me to come to your school, please go to unstoppableteen.com and click on the button on the navigation bar that's for schools. And that will direct you to the pages where you can find out more about booking me and inviting me to come to your school. I hope that we get to meet in person at some point in the future. If we don't, please take what you got in today's session and share it with other young people that might want or need more motivation over the coming weeks and months. Share it with parents, share it with teachers, and together we'll be able to help more young people experience a better quality of life. If you like this episode, the chances are you'll like other episodes as well. So why not go and subscribe? You can do that via our website, or you can go to iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Follow us, and if you like what we're doing here, please do give us a favourable review. Like us, give us a 5-star review. That'll help us attract more listeners. As always, I want to wrap this up by saying a big thank you for listening. Don't just know this stuff, start using it straight away. If you do, it will help you become truly unstoppable. See you again soon. Thanks for listening.